Thanks for your interest in Romac software. In this video, I will introduce you to Romac's Series 8 Inventory Control Program. The Romac Inventory Control Program is designed specifically for the structural steel and plate industry and is designed to keep track of steel sections. It simplifies data entry, helps you maintain your inventory, and includes comprehensive reporting options. It even interfaces with our Series 8 Production Control Program and our Series 8 Purchase Order Program. Romac's Inventory Control Program is a lot like the old familiar card file system, where each screen relates to a card in a manual card file system. Here we've included a few items in our inventory. As you can see, we've got a W21 by 44. It's A992 material, and it shows the inventory that we have either on hand or on order. It shows the quantity, the size, the location, and this location would be a physical location in your shop or on your yard. If the location is lowercase ORD, that means the material is on order. We have three statuses. STK stands for stock, meaning that the material is available for any job. RES for reserve, meaning that the material has been purchased or reserved for a job, but it hasn't been used on a cutting list. And then the ALC is allocated, meaning the material has been placed on a cutting list. The asterisk you see after the RES means that the material was purchased for a job. In this case, it would be job 2014-999. If an item is allocated, normally it would have a batch number in this column, which would come from our production control program, although you can allocate directly from the inventory control program. If you had a plate, a hole in a plate, or something like that, you might include a remark. The heat number column would list the item's heat number, and as you can see here, the items on order do not have a heat number yet because we haven't received them and we haven't assigned a heat number to them. Here, inventory control allows us to attach an MTR PDF file to an inventory item, and if that column has an N here, it means that an MTR has been assigned to that item. If an MTR has been assigned to the item, the N would change to yes. And there's a couple of ways that we can attach an MTR to an item. One is whenever we receive it through the purchase order system, we can attach the MTR at that time and it will transfer over to the inventory. Or we can attach the MTR from this screen, and for this item, if we want to attach the MTR, we highlight the item and then click on the MTR button. The MTR files would be located in a certain folder on your system, and we can browse that folder and pick out a file. In this case, we'll pick this one out. And if we want to display it, we click Display PDF, and it will show us that MTR, which is probably not related to this item, but that's the PDF of the MTR. After everything's okay with that file number, we say OK. And this will make a copy of the PDF to the storage area where we keep the actual PDFs. If the MTR column shows a Y for yes, then we can click on MTR and it will show that mill test report. The PO num column is the PO number that we purchased the material on, and you can enter that manually or it can come over directly from the purchase order system and then the purchase order line item number. The vendor number and then what we paid for the material, the unit, whether it be per pound, per foot, per inch, or whatever it might be, and then the value of that line item. And as you can see up here, we're showing that for the stock items, we have 1,650 pounds with a value of $808.50, which correlates for this item, the 18-foot 9 item. Reserved. Although we have some reserved items in this section, they don't show up as weight or dollars because they're still on order. So anything that's still on order doesn't show up in your totals here. And then the allocated items. It shows that we have 4,928 pounds allocated in $2,340.80 value. And then the total of the stock reserve and allocated is 6,578 pounds, $3,149.30. From the current stock screen, we can directly add material using the Add button. We can delete an item using the Delete button. We can use an item using the Use button. We can change the status either to stock, reserved, or allocated using one of those buttons. If there's a piece that we want to scrap, then we can use the scrap button to scrap it, or if we need to make a change, we can use the edit button. And then of course, MTR button will either allow you to attach a PDF to that item, or to display the PDF if the PDF's already been attached to that item. You can add items automatically through Romac's purchase order program, but you can also manually add an item by simply clicking the Add button. For the quantity, we'll put in 4 pieces, and we'll make them 44 feet long. And for location, we'll put B09. And then the status, it can be stock, reserved, or allocated. We'll make this piece reserved by typing RES, and we'll say it's reserved for job number 997. The cutting batch is always assigned through the production control program, so we can't change the cutting batch here. And in the remark box, we could put any remark here if we need to. We can add the heat number and the vendor number, and we'll enter the PO number, a PO line item number, and what we paid per pound in this case, and we'll say we paid 50 cents per pound. If everything looks correct, we'll click OK, and they show up right here. There's the 4 pieces. They're reserved. This is the heat number, PO number, etc. And you can see that it added it to a reserve because these are a direct add and they're not on order. If we find that the item's no longer in inventory for some reason or made a mistake, you can always delete an item by clicking the Delete button. You input a transaction date and a quantity to delete. Maybe we didn't have 4, we just had 3. So we can delete one of them, and now that changed the quantity to 3. It also adjusted the reserve weights and total weights. To use an item, we click Use, and this is a manual use, and it's telling how many pieces you want to use. In this case, we'll use 1 and the job number. We'll keep it at 997. The heat number wouldn't change. And then we can tell it what length we're using, what length we're returning, or if we're using the entire 44 piece, then we just leave those blank and it would use the entire 44-foot piece. But let's say we're using 32 feet, and it's going to do the math. And say we're putting a 12-foot piece back into stock or back into inventory, and at that location. And we can change the status, for instance, to stock, and if everything looks correct, we click OK. Now we say we reduce the quantity of the 44-foot piece from 3 to 2, and the 12-foot remnant went back into stock. Now, of course, we could go back up right here and change this to stock and say we're going to change both of those items to stock now. And there's a change, and it updated our totals and moved the reserved weights and cost up to stock while leaving everything else the same. We could do the same thing with the reserve for a job. Allocate to a job, or scrap the item. If we need to make a change, we could click Edit and come down and say that the price is wrong. As you see, the prices have now changed. If we make a mistake on this MTR item and attach the wrong MTR, we can go to Edit and unlink that MTR document if we need to. The Usage History tab tells us by date and job number what we've used, and that's either through the Usage button on the current stock screen or by using it through Romac's production control program that carries the heat number or the mill test report if we had assigned a mill test report document to it, the PO number that we bought, the item number, the vendor, what we cut it from, and then the quantity and size that was actually used. The buying history tells us what we purchased, the date we purchased it, the quantities, the size, job number that we purchased it for if that's applicable, PO number, etc., and what we paid for it. And then on receipts, we haven't received any of this, but it would show the quantity that we received, the heat number, and the date it was received on. The Add Delete history tells us anything that we manually added or took out of the inventory, and you can see some of the adds here that we did, and then the one delete and the negative quantity. The Summary tab shows us by month and year what we've used, in this case, amounts in pounds and the value. If we received anything, it will show the amount that we received and the value. It will also indicate any adjustments that we've made. And that would be direct adds and deletes, or if we change the price of something, that would show up in the adjustments also. And then if we scrap anything, how much material we scrapped and the value of that material. Now we can scan back and forth within our inventory. Here we have a tube, a 4x4 by quarter tube, and we're keeping track of that by lineal feet. And just because you keep track of tube by lineal feet doesn't mean you have to purchase it so much per lineal foot. You can purchase it through the purchase order system per pound and it will work just fine. Here's a plate item. We'll keep plates by width and length. In this case, we've got a 1/2 inch plate, 5 pieces that are 96 by 240. If we're using a plate, we put in quantity that we're using and the job number that we're using it on. Now with plates, we can potentially put back 2 or more different widths and lengths as opposed to if we're cutting a beam or an angle where there's just one length that goes back. But with plates, we could put multiple widths and lengths back. And if we don't put a job number, it would go back into stock. And as you can see, it reduced our 5 pieces to 4 pieces, and then put 2 remnants back into stock to 24 by 48 and the 24 by 24. And our usage history shows up what we've used in square footage. We can also keep track of items such as bolts, nuts, washers, or other items that really don't have a size, width, or length, and we just keep track of those by number of pieces. In this case, we've got 100 3/4 by 2.5 inch high-strength bolts, and you can use those and keep a complete usage history, buying history, etc. for those items. If we need to add items to our master file, we can do it manually through the Update Master menu selection, or if we're purchasing something and it's not in the inventory, it will create a master file. In this case, let's put in a W8 by 18, and it's going to be a 992. Now this is a database item and it picked up the weight unit 18 pounds per foot. The minimum restock would be whenever we're using items in the production control program. This will determine at what length do we scrap the item versus put it back into stock. So if we put in something like 3 feet, then if it's under 3 feet it would scrap it. If it's over 3 feet, it would put it back into stock. And we can also, in case of a length item, we can keep track of it by pound or lineal feet. In this case, for the beam, we'll keep track of it per pound. But if it were pipe or tube, you might want to keep track of those items per lineal foot. This came from our materials database, so there is a metric equivalent, and this just tells you if you're using metric dimensions, what the description is and what type of weight unit is. We can keep track of almost any type of material, carbon steel, stainless steel, aluminum, etc. Let's add in a stainless steel plate, and in this case we'll specify that this plate is 304L, and we click yes to add it to the database. We don't include stainless steel or aluminum in our materials database, but we can add it to the inventory. We just need to be sure to furnish a weight unit for stainless steel. We can have several different 1/2 inch plates in the inventory. We can have carbon steel, A36, A588, T1, whatever it might be. We can have different grades of stainless steel, and we can have different grades of aluminum, so you can have multiple plates of the same thickness. In this case, you see we have the 1/2 inch stainless steel plate, and we have a 1/2 inch carbon steel A36 plate. We can look up items in the inventory one of 2 ways. We can click on Browse and find it in our scrollable window, or we can type in the description. We use what we call redefined fraction keys to enter fractions within the inventory system, whether it be in the description of an angle or plate, or if it's for a fraction that you're using for the length or width. For instance, for the 1/2 inch fraction, you just press the letter O. 9/16 fraction, you just press the letter S. So you don't have to type in whole fractions or the decimal equivalent or whatever. Here is a list of the shapes that we can handle in the inventory system. Structural shapes, angles, plates, bars, rods, gauge material, floor plate, round and square tube, and we can also set it to whether we use TS for square and rectangle tube or HSS. The pipe, we could use schedule pipe. We can use structural pipe, standard, extra strong, and double extra strong. Bars, various bolts, and bolt-related items, grading, and expanded metal. Special items are designated with an SI, and that's for items that don't fall into any of the other categories. These items can have weight calculated per each or per item. SA is for special items with weights that are calculated by area, like grating or perforated plate. SL is the designation for special items that have weight calculated by length, like extrusions or aluminum sections. Romac Inventory Control also includes several report options that you can choose from, like current inventory, cost summary, by job number, by location, usage, job material to stock transfer, scrapped material, and more. Each report gives you the ability to search by specific criteria, giving you the exact data you need for specific date ranges. We also have the ability to export the current inventory, the usage, or the direct adds and deletes. It can also export it to a comma-separated values file, and that file can be opened up in Excel and then use it to manipulate for whatever purpose that you need. And that gives us pretty much an overall view of the inventory control program. As you can see, Romac's inventory control program is easy to learn, easy to use, and can help save you tons of time and money in managing your inventory. Again, thank you for taking the time to view this quick demo video. If you need additional information or have any questions, please contact us. We would love to help you decide whether Romac Inventory Control is a fit for you and your operation. Be sure to check out our website for more information about inventory control and our other programs for the fabricated steel industry, production control, purchase order, estimating, and drawing log.